Adeel, appreciate you hopping on today. Excited to dive into Dryvebox. We have old Tom who recently invested. Congrats on the recent round as well. And
Thank you.
hot topic here on the simulators and golf, and a great spot to be in today, 2024, almost 2025. But take us back. When did you first see this opportunity? When were you like, all right, golf simulators, this whole technology going off course? When was like, all right, I got to jump all in. We got to build this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of
It's a
course.
pleasure to be here. For me, I have to honestly say, like, it wasn't like I had this like big vision to start. It was just addressing a very selfish need. I'm a fairly newcomer to this amazing sport. Started picking up the game 2019. So people always
And
ask.
what was your sport prior?
For me, I played soccer, volleyball, did a lot of like basically triathlons and endurance
Okay.
sports. Always loved sports. I'd try out for every team when I was in high school
Mm-hmm.
and in college. Of course, it gets significantly harder. So I
Of
just
course.
try to play whatever I could get on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the funny thing with golf is that it was not something that I was exposed to when I was little. And so just never really had an opportunity to get into it. And it's such a technical sport that I just remember a few times going to the driving range with some friends in college, high school, and realizing that I can't even hit the ball. So I kind of walked away from it or felt embarrassed about it. And then in 2019, I had just sold my last company and had a little bit of extra time on my hands. And the real reason is that my younger brother got into golf when he was in business school, and I have a very competitive sort of rivalry with him on anything sports. So it was my birthday on 2019. In 2019, he took me out to play golf, and it was the first time I realized he had been secretly playing golf behind my back, and he totally, destroyed me that time. And I said, all right, this is it. I'm gonna pick up this sport. And so I went really hard at it, trying to teach myself, of course, like in retrospect, should have gotten coaching day one, all these things, but got really into it. And then right when the pandemic hit, I felt like I was on my like growth chart, like, really gaining a lot of momentum, but then freaked out because shoot, now where am I going to play? Because everything was shut down the first like 3 months. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to build a simulator in my home so I can keep playing. But my wife basically completely rejected the idea. And I scrambled and figured out that I could potentially park a trailer. There's a street right next to where I live where I see other trailers parked. And I was like, man, if I could put a simulator in there, then I could have my dream of, a golf simulator sort of in my own home, my own control. So that's what prompted this whole thing. And like I said, I was just obsessed with solving my own problem and having fun building this thing. And it wasn't until later when I started taking it around, showing it to others, that I realized, I could be onto something.
Very cool. And then give us a quick snapshot of prior to Dryvebox, because you have built other things, and
I did. Yeah.
it's probably helpful context just for people.
Yeah, for sure. So my background's in medicine. So I'm an MD. I was on my way to be a practicing physician, but I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug, wanted to build something. And so even when I was in med school, I had started my first company called Picmonic, which was leveraging kind of a visual learning technique and software to help people learn and retain information better. We ended up raised venture funding, building this company, and then eventually sold it to a company called TrueLearn. It was an amazing journey. My first company made all the mistakes you could imagine as a startup founder. And then after I sold the company, I was like, maybe I'll uh, go back into medicine. But that, once you build a company, you just want to keep going. So my second company was 2015. It's a company called Medumo. And it was basically leveraging what I learned about building software to help other students and directing it towards helping patients. So it was like a patient education thing for a while. But then I realized, man, hospitals didn't want to pay for education. They want to pay for something that could justify an ROI. So pivoted the company a few times, eventually landed on solving operational efficiency for hospitals using more of an interactive patient education method. And long story short, we became like enterprise SaaS for hospitals, delivering instructions to patients. Sold that company in 2019 to Philips, which is a big, healthcare company now. They're known for their consumer electronics. but they're a big healthcare company now. And I worked for them for about a year and a half. And that was when I was starting to really get into golf and came up with the idea, and then eventually left Phillips to build Dryvebox full time.
Very cool. And give us, we're seeing more founders, entrepreneurs from other industries or have built in other industries now come into sports. Do you, obviously there's some overlap, but anything that sort of gives you an advantage, you think, from that of having different perspectives or seeing things that are outside of sports, just in someone that's been in sports their whole life, or someone's 20 year in sports but
Mm-hmm.
they've never really seen the medical side, or
Mm-hmm.
the Silicon Valley side, or whatever it is.
I think that's a really good question. I would say I do feel like some advantages for me personally was like I've gone through the whole motion of building a company and obviously building a team, building a product, selling the company. You know, ultimately starting any businesses, there's some fundamentals around how to build a successful company, how to think about product, how to solve problems efficiently and utilize resources. And then for me, raising money was a thing where like I felt like I've had good training across two of the companies that I started, which because I know in golf there are lots of folks with amazing ideas, but fundraising is not an easy thing. So I feel blessed in that I've had some training there, right, through previous
Yeah.
experiences.
And take us a little deeper on that, on the fundraising. Like, what are some of those things you learned or can apply? Because probably the question I get asked the most, or we deal with, is, hey, what? Give me some help. Give me, like,
Yeah,
what are some tips or tricks? What is anything you've learned? And obviously, experience will never beat anything you say, but
yeah,
there's definitely some nuance to it. Then you get better and better.
that's right. So I think part of the training was how to really think like an investor. I think most founders and entrepreneurs are a little bit biased and blinded by their own passion for whatever the product it is that they're trying to build. And I think when you kind of take off the entrepreneur hat and put on the investor hat, you realize there's actually quite a gap. And those come through in like, understanding like what is really your market size. And obviously that matters a lot. And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs in golf and not in golf as well that while very passionate about a problem they're solving, aren't solving a big enough problem to justify an investment, especially in the venture capital community. Other similar things are, if you haven't gone through enough iterations and enough customer exploration, enough feedback, the initial idea may seem great and you can pitch it like it's a phenomenal idea, but you haven't produced enough evidence to de-risk the project, and therefore investors are hesitant to bet on. And I also think, I mean, one of the biggest things is team, right? So having founders who've been able to build companies, like repeat founders, is a big deal. And I think um, having that with the initial team that I was able to build gave investors confidence that we're chasing a big enough problem, that we have a great team and we have a unique solution. And the other thing that I would say for me personally, because having a product that's now less software, more hardware. We did file a ton of patents and protect our intellectual property. These are some of the things that I've seen a lot of founders maybe like either didn't know to do or didn't have the resources to do, and therefore like struggle to obtain investment. So
Yeah, and I was going to get to that next on the hardware software, but we'll actually go to the next one that's after that. You've done and you've had some pivots, but it seems like at least you've had some B2B selling
mm-hmm.
experience as well versus some B2C. So B2B, business to business, for people that don't know, business to consumer. How do you view that, or how do you think through that of, is there a better one to target? Is it a mix, obviously across all three companies, and you can sort of lead it into Dryvebox and what you're doing now, but how have you seen that evolution, or just insights from that as well?
Yeah, I again very fortunate. My first company was very B2C. We were selling an educational product to students, and that taught me a lot about when it comes to B2C, marketing and a specific type of marketing, performance marketing, leveraging bigger channels, and the conversion mechanics. All of that is very different. Like versus my second company was extremely B2B. It was enterprise, quite frankly, and one of the toughest enterprise to sell to, like hospitals. So learning about how how to build the right team, people who can do consultative sales, people who can, nurture leads. At the end of the day, when you're doing enterprise level, it's a lot of relationship. It's a different set of marketing. It's more like subject matter expert type, doing case studies. And so I think having the right skill set of people to channel to the right audience type is really important. And with Drybox, it's actually very different as well, because we have both. We have, call it general awareness, where we want everyone to know that if they're throwing a birthday party, if they're having a team building event, that they could get Drybox. But at the same time, we're working with big brands like, Lululemon and Genesis and TGL, in which case it's very B2B, it's very consultative, and it's very much having two different types of people on your team that can do different things, and not asking a consumer person to go market to, businesses, and vice versa.
Yeah. And take us through the golf space a little bit as you've learned it. From what's cool about golf is you do have, it is in self-sustaining its own market. You don't see that with a lot of other sports. Like, it has its own investors, it has its own consumer brands, equipment, hardware, software.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned as you've navigated that space? I know you have a lot of the investors on your cap table. What have you seen, or how do you view the golf landscape on the business side, from companies to investors?
So the one thing I'll speak to some of the, like, more, I would say, relationship side and kind of the general industry, and then I'll speak to some of the technologies that I've seen in companies I've seen. So, coming from education technology and healthcare technology, right as I entered golf, right away I felt like, and this, I can give you like specific examples, like people are just a lot more receptive and collaborative. A little bit less skeptical, a little bit more passionate. I think there's something awesome about, people in golf also loving the sport and therefore want to see it grow, and just that inherent alignment in all of our incentives that want to see the sport grow makes it just inherently more collaborative. And I think you see it everywhere, where, like, if you're running a golf company, there's this side mission of growing the game, and everybody says it. And I love that. It's like when we're all, rowing in the same direction in some way, even if we have competing products, people are rooting for each other. I think that from a technology standpoint, what I've seen is that we're going through a pretty exciting time in golf. And in the past, golf is littered with companies that folks come up with, like, cool little gadgets and training aids and things to improve your game, whatever. And those are awesome. Those are, obviously, sort of, we'll say, not easy to come up with, but easy to adapt. Like, as a golfer myself, like, I bought up all of those, and, you can reach a golfer fairly quickly with a pretty innovative idea. But over the last 5 to 10 years, like, you see this transformation mostly led by technology, which I'm most excited about, in that I think the NGF continue to post great statistics about how, off-course golf has overtaken on-course golf in terms of their number of swings and popularity. The cultural shift in golf is also really exciting for me. And all of those, you're seeing new companies immediately capitalizing on those transformations and changes, whether it's like brands, Good, you're talking Malbon, you're talking Eastside Golf. We've got all these folks who kind of foresee and maybe even help direct the transformation of the culture of golf, and therefore building great companies around it. And then the core technology around AI, talk about Sportsbox, using 3D AI analysis. You talk about many, many other companies that have only come out, I would say, in the last 5 years, that are completely disrupting the space. And so for me, when I see this, and drawing on my Silicon Valley experience, like, it's an exciting time. I think it's a great time to make investments in golf. It's a great time to be a part of companies in golf. And for me, I'm hoping to continue to ride that wave.
Yeah, it is an exciting time for sure. And we've had some of the names, Swag Golf, we've had Old Tom. So we've had some cool ones. Obviously, Elysian Park with their initiative. What is that? EP Golf. EP
Mm-hmm.
Golf, yeah. Give us a little more on on course, off course, right? This growth, I think Top Golf played a key component in this. I'm sure that's helped ignite you to some degree as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then where you see that going over time, right? I'd never heard this before, but I've heard, people that I know, hey, I put in a simulator in my basement, right? Like before it was all I had a little putting green. And so it's like you can even see that transformation.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're playing a major piece in this. How do you see that on course, off course evolving over the next decade?
Yeah. So what's super interesting to me is that this this actually isn't a novel thing. It's, if you look at other countries, particularly in Asia, like Korea, Japan, other countries that don't have large masses of land like we do, it's already the case. So it's not like, oh my God, this is a new thing. It's, folks in other places that don't have the luxury of having golf courses everywhere are already sort of evolving and adapting and accepting simulator golf, screen golf, off course experiences. I think that presents a really interesting opportunity for the US because the reality is, yes, we have a ton more golf, like in terms of golf courses and density, like more than other countries. But if you really look at the demand for golf, I think there's still a lot of capacity and a lot of demand that's unmet. I think NGF talks about the latent demand in golf, and that's a massive number that is yet to be unlocked. And to me, the off course golf, yes, it's overtaken on course golf, but I think we're still at the beginning of the curve that's going to continue. And the reason for that, I would largely attribute to, you know, from an indoor or we'll say off course perspective, you on a land and economics perspective, you can get more people enjoying it at relatively lower price, especially if you look at the technology trends in other industries, whether it's computers or whatever, it's going to continue to come down. So we know that simulators are going to get cheaper and cheaper. We know that the technology is going to be more accessible. And so the direct correlation of that is you're going to see more supply in the market for folks to try and experience. The quality of technology has also gotten better. So that means I can actually thoroughly enjoy it around a simulator golf, whereas maybe 10 years ago, it's still a little bit gimmicky, a little bit like, oh, it's like Wii golf. It's fun, but I'm not going to like take it seriously. And then you look at sports, and I know you write a lot about this, like when there's infrastructure around competition, around, you know, achieving, that next level of success with a skill-based activity, we talk about leagues. I mean, we've seen even in the last couple of years more simulator golf leagues coming out with real prize money, with real teams, with real tournaments, which will all, obviously continue to trend in that direction. With TGL now, the best golfers in the world are participating in this technologically driven. I personally think that's only going to continue to push down the market and get people to not only swing in front of a screen or go to a driving range that's technology enabled for fun, but actually doing it for game improvement, which has more lasting power. So to me, those are all like trends that I'm highly bullish about. And I think that, if you just apply the same simulator golf or off course golf density in these other countries and apply it to the US, you'll realize we have tens of millions of demand to unlock.
Yeah, and since you started, was it 4 or 5 years ago? How much better have the simulators gotten? Like, what have you guys even seen of some of your own that you've built?
The quality of the graphics, that's the easy one. We see that right away. I mean, I think TrackMan just released its new software update, the TPS 10 and the Virtual 3, and it looks incredible. But other simulators as well. I've seen the accuracy of the number. Like now, these because of healthy amount of competition between the big three, TrackMan, Foresight, Full Swing. Like they're pushing for accuracy to be better, and therefore like we as consumers will trust the numbers more. And we know that, if you're swinging in front of one versus another, wait a second, like I don't have a draw shape, but you're giving me a draw shape. Like there's something wrong with the simulator. Like you'll see that gap get filled up. And another aspect of it is, I would say, the entertainment side of it. So, we've seen more games come out. It used to be just like long drive closest to the pin, but now there are all these like competitive team games that you can incorporate. I think the next frontier will be really cool, integrating putting, because putting has always still been that thing in the simulator environment where, okay, like just auto putt me. I want to move to the next hole. But I think, we're getting to a point where you're seeing some of these new technologies come out that leverages amazing putting technology, undulating greens, calculation, and actually incorporate that into the actual sim play. So if my putting lands on a particular part of the green and it slopes down into the right, the green will actually in front of you change in that direction, kind of like Golf Zone has their undulating swing plates. You'll see that in putting, and I think that's just going to be incredible.
Yeah, I know the putting's getting close. That'll complete the simulator games, which will be awesome. Now, you guys this year, looking at, let me see, press release here from your team, 16 new, you guys call them boxes, right?
That's
16
right.
new boxes this year. Where are you guys at when you look at the state of play, your company? You had 16 new boxes. Where are you trying to go next? Where do you see Dryvebox going over your 4 or 5 years into this? Where do you see the next 4 to 5?
Yeah, so if we work backwards from kind of our mission and our vision, and then apply a modest but ambitious goal, I would say our vision is that there should be a dry box or a great simulator experience within 10 minutes of every American. I think we're actually trending in that direction quite well as an industry, but also Drybox. Like, we're part of our huge competitive advantage is we can deliver that experience to anybody, and therefore putting more boxes out there will allow us to achieve that vision. And that makes a very easy and direct kind of metric for us, which is to put more boxes out there. And then our mission is to cultivate golf everywhere. And cultivate implies that, like, it's more than just getting people to swing once and have a good time, but to get them to come back and want to, like, actually get better. And so if you work backwards from there, we'll say, we want to put more and more units out there. Today, we're at 32 units around the country. We'll be launching around the world. We already have Canada, and we just finalized our Canadian franchise program. And so putting more boxes out there could mean, launching our own corporate units in major cities that we can support and we'll build a team for. But in other places, we think franchising is a phenomenal way to achieve our mission and do it at scale. The beauty of franchising is that, number one, we get other golf passionate people to build a golf business. And we find a lot of those in our pipeline, and we're excited to work with them. It also allows us to move fast. Like, for us to build a team in, let's say, Las Vegas will take us months, if not a whole year, before we can really ramp. But for our franchisees, we could do that, but do it across 20 cities at once. And so it just puts the scale into perspective. And so 2025, we definitely want to put, as many, if not more, boxes out there as we did this year. We anticipate, not only from a trailer perspective, putting it all over the country and through franchising through our own program, but partnering with other brands as well. And we also deliver sort of indoor pop-up experiences. Like, we have these peripheral products as well that support the mission. Because at the end of the day, I don't want the excuse for us not delivering Drybox to be, oh, the trailer won't fit. So we want to make sure that everywhere people want to play golf, we can deliver something for them.
Yeah, love that. And you'll have to get one. I know you have one in Tampa, but you have to get one down here in St. Petersburg because there's there's okay courses, but we could definitely. I live downtown, so we could definitely use something because I'm always like, man, I got to drive 30, 40 minutes just to play on a course. So
Exactly.
anyway, yeah, proves your point. Last question. Going macro, you can include golf in this if you want or not, but what are you seeing in sports as a whole? What are you paying attention to? What trends are interesting to you and you think worthwhile for others to pay attention to as well?
That's a really good question. So, sports to me is personally one of the most exciting aspects of living a healthy, productive life, right? We have now entered an age where if someone wanted to be entertained and just not go anywhere and just sit at home, they can. But that's a very sad. I think there's I have two kids, so we watch these anime like Wally. There's like this future prediction of people sitting in their chairs and not doing anything and getting fat and their bones lose density and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's real. Like, there's a future, a version of our future where that could be the reality. And I would say that that is not a reality that we want to march towards. The reality we want to march towards is that the the technology that we have, whether it's AI or others, will enable us to solve problems easier and have a better life. And I would argue a better life, which I believe most Americans and most people in the world will agree is an active life. And what that means is like, instead of things like shopping online or whatever, or sorry, we used to have all these spaces where you have to put retail stores and you have to let people to go shop and you have to go buy things or eat or whatever. Nowadays, you can just order stuff to eat at home. You can watch movies on your TV instead of going to the movie theater. You can buy everything online. You don't have to go to the malls anymore. You can have meetings online with Zoom. You don't have to meet with people anymore. But sports is that one thing where, like, I'm sorry, but like, yeah, there's Pelotons and whatever, but you got to get out there and play. And to me, that's an opportunity that I've seen where you're starting to see like sports malls. That's a great example where take an old mall that has all these, department stores that are now, moving out, or, malls are kind of going out of style, and you convert them into what's called a sports mall, where you have baseball camps and basketball camps, and you drop your kids off and then they get exposed to everything. That's becoming really popular, and I think that's a really exciting trend to observe. Like, if I were a real estate investor, I would be actively thinking about how I can do more of that, converting these older spaces, whether it's like, or out of fashion, malls and restaurants and retail stores, into like physical activity, entertainment centers. Another reason why I think Top Golf and, Five Iron Golf and, or in other sports, similarly, these like sports complexes are successful, is because, like, I would argue you can't replace sports and you need physical space for that. Second thing I would say for us is, I'm big futurist. Cars are going to drive themselves. They already are. I live in San Francisco. I take Waymo everywhere. Where, like, are you going to need parking spaces anymore? How is the whole living space going to transform when people actually don't need their cars anymore and they'll just drive them and go park somewhere else? I think transforming kind of our living spaces. I'm really optimistic and bullish about mobile retail and activating spaces that are traditionally parking spaces, or spaces that are used because people have to come into work every day, but now people are working remotely and there's all these empty parking spaces and empty lots and empty malls and empty parks. And let's go activate them. Let's put other sports in a mobile setting and let's go deliver great experiences to people. People are still gonna, I think, festivals, concerts, conferences, these are still irreplaceable. And how do we create more engaging, interactive, fun ways to kind of accelerate that and bring people back? That's where I think Drybox has a play. We have something pretty unique that we can unlock spaces, bring experiences to people, and not only get people exposed, but to then like help them continue to develop their interests. So these are like very futuristic. Like, what happens when cars drive themselves? What
Yeah,
happens when we don't need to do anything in person anymore? Guess what? Sports is what I would bet on.
I love that. Yeah, and that was a really cool segment. I'm excited to go back and listen to that. When we're done here, and it shows, and for other people listening, like, yeah, you're building in golf and you're thinking how to innovate that, but you also have to look outside, like what else is taking place and where does this fit into that. And I do very much agree with you. I think that's the beauty and why sports is seeing this huge influx right now, is it, you can't replace it, and people are going to want more of that social activity when everything else is more isolated. So anyway, yeah, I love that. And as we hit the 30-minute mark, where can people find a Drybox? Where can people learn more about you and get out to a simulator and play?
Yeah, I would say drybox.com. Go to our website. We have a location
And that's
page.
Dryve for people. Yeah.
It's Dryvebox. Also, follow us on Instagram, other social media platforms. We always post new and latest, greatest. Now we have so many different locations. We're trying to keep people updated wherever they are. And most likely, with now, I think over 20 cities around the country, there is a Drybox in your city. And so go online, check it out. Most of our boxes, do events, but we do have some. We recently launched kind of our self-service box model, which is basically when the boxes are not being used for events, people can go use it just as another simulator facility. And you can find those on our locations page as well. Some examples are we have one at the base of Salesforce Tower, right in Salesforce Plaza. That is an awesome location. So if you're in San Francisco downtown, you can go check it out. There's one in Palo Alto. There's one in Phoenix. So we're going to continue to spread that because, again, the whole point is like we want to get people exposed to the sport. We want them to like get that shot euphoria and realize, hey, this could be a sport for me. And golf is one of the few sports that I feel like truly, if you can hold a club and you can swing it, you can play golf. And so there's broad appeal. Once they've been exposed to it, we want to give them a place to go like learn, practice, take lessons. One of the reasons why we're working with PGA of America, who's through Elysian Park as an investor, is that it gives more people places to learn, take lessons, and we can engage PGA professionals to do that.
Very cool. I love it. Well, Adeel, appreciate you coming on, and super cool what you're doing.
Thank you, man. Great to be here.